Let's get more analysis and bring in Bilgehan Ozturk. He's a researcher at the SETA Foundation. Bilgehan, good to speak to you about this. This is really good news for the grain deal because so much of the world is reliant on the food baskets of Ukraine and Russia. But this is also very good for Turkish diplomacy, isn't it?
It is absolutely, as in the first place, when the deal materialized, thanks to UN's and Turkey's diplomatic efforts. Again, this overcoming this the problem, the Russian suspension has now been solved, and it is a huge diplomatic success. And Turkey is not only playing this role on its own and in cooperation with UN, of course. But since the Moscow decision to suspend their participation in the grain deal, there has been painstaking efforts from Turkish side to convince their Russian counterparts to come back to the deal, because the deal is basically too important to fail, and not just the immediate parties have stakes in this deal. There are many countries, there are many parties that are not directly party to the grain deal, but they are affected by this deal.
What does all of this now mean for global food security? Because when the war started, it was definitely having an impact on much needed grain not reaching parts of the world that are facing situations like famine. I would think here Ethiopia and Somalia. Russia had been saying that they were concerned that the grain was not reaching those countries. So this is really a good step in the right direction. But come the 18th, 19th of November, this deal is set to expire. Do you think it will be extended?
It's hard to know at this point. Yes, it's a welcome decision and welcome step by Moscow to return to the deal, but at the same time there is the deadline, and it has to be expired or extended. And we know that even without the latest high-profile attack by by unknown sources to Black Sea fleet of Russians. Russia had to respond in a certain way. They were under pressure, but at the same time, even without this high-profile military attack, Russians were already complaining about the shortage of their own benefit out of this deal. They were complaining that Russian fertilizers and Russian grain are not being exported, and so this has to be fixed. Putin and other officials repeatedly complain about this, and actually in this regard, Russians have a point, because this is in the grain deal. So it is really important for those countries like Ethiopia and other countries who are facing the food crisis, and it is also important for Moscow, I would say, because Moscow is attaching importance to these countries, maybe more than Western countries these days, because these are the countries where Russians are enjoying a relatively greater image and more cordial relations. So mitigating their ills in terms of food security is important for Russians, and this is the welcome step. But again, whether they will renew the deal on November the 18th will be based on the trajectory of the ongoing war effort. Because if there is a greater level of escalation in military grounds and a similar Black Sea attack to Black Sea assets of Russians, again Moscow would want to respond in this way, and they might declare that we are withdrawing this time, not suspending from this deal.
Bilgehan Ozturk, really good to get your analysis. Speaking to us there from Ankara. Thank you.